Hello, and welcome back to Storytime 2. They called it a game. I was going to start another series tonight, but I don't have the courage to do that one yet. I started rereading this old journal. I'm really not, like, man, I was a mess. Anyways, you guys are here for They Called It a Game. We're gonna do episodes 9 and 10. Yeah, 9 and 10 tonight. And as always, links to every previous episode will be in the description below. If you like it, then like, subscribe, click that little gray bell, and you'll get all your notifications for it. So, yeah, let's get to the story, everybody. I have to scroll up every time. I found that out. It sucks, but oh well, still works. They Called It a Game, episodes 9 and 10. I took a breath, deep and cold. The air stung in my chest as I drew back the Madhu on my right arm, bracing for a strike on my old friend. He darted at me with madness in his eyes. It wasn't Sudikal anymore. This was a monstrosity. A brutal incarnation of violence charging at me with a gaping maw and bladed limbs glistening in the setting sun. I lowered myself, the shield on my left arm raised to deflect his oncoming attack, the right ready to counter with an attack of my own. His footsteps were deliberate and heavy, drops of blood creating a grim trail behind him. I couldn't even take a moment to register the deaths of Dreg and Lily. They were dead in an instant. It was almost incomprehensible. Sudikal clashed upon my shield with a terrifying crash, leaving a pit directly in the center where his blades had nearly punched right through. It was a frightening realization and my cue to strike back. With a single well-placed thrust, I impaled my old friend directly through the heart. His bladed appendages flailed wildly, trying to strike at me as I deflected each blow with ease. It's not that I was particularly talented, but more that he was no longer able to fight with coherence. Since launch, we had all trained extensively in our weapons of choice, and given the world's mechanics, we were growing quickly in said skills, even so far as to earn various bonuses to the use of our chosen tools. Sudikal had been an exceptional mace wielder in his life, but his bladed skill was through the floor. I couldn't help but to wonder if that may have had something to do with his seemingly random attacks and the poor execution. It didn't matter, though. In the end, he was hanging, impaled from the edge of my blade, the life draining from his eyes as a look of fear took hold. He clearly didn't want to die. I could feel him clinging to life. I could hear the echoing sounds of his children as we trained those many months ago. Soon, with only 2 words that I couldn't make out, Sudikal had faded into nothing. Just a limp corpse at the end of my favorite weapon. And the monster that had taken his place faded with him. In his last moment, the look in his eyes was human. For just a second, he could see what I had done, and it was clear he couldn't understand why. I'll never forget what it must have been like for him to be stricken down by one of his closest friends. And to this day, I hope I never experience such a fate. However, Forge was closing in. The snow at our feet began to melt into pools of water, making the ground muddy and hard to get traction in. This was going to complicate matters for our tanking brigades, whenever the hell they got here. The snow that was falling turned mid-air into rain, and the temperature around us began to rise rapidly. It was clear that the fight was only just beginning, and already we had lost so much and had gained all of nothing. As I took a measure of the circumstances we were faced with, the situation was clearly dire. I breathed in again, trying to steady myself, but to no avail. There's something about murdering a close friend that really makes it difficult to find a much-needed moment of peace before a major encounter. We heard scurrying in the alleys around us, As it grew quieter, we knew that Forge must be nearly upon us. Even his devoted followers had fled, hence the scrambling noises. Lori noticed that our path was clear for an escape, but given how many people we had with us, an escape for us would only mean certain death for the rest. We were the core of Titan, and if we had fallen back, the entire operation would have fallen apart, leaving our troops to face an insurmountable foe totally unprepared. We couldn't do that. So as I took my last deep breath, I raised my eyes to the sky and spoke just 2 words to whatever gods might hear me. "You're next." I exhaled, steeled my gaze upon the oncoming Goliath, and took one last look at the picture of my daughter emblazoned on the inside of my right-hand Madu. I live for her, or I die for her. Whatever the case may be, she will fight another day, because I'll take the blows meant for her. I dug my feet in. The sky was dark, clouds rolling like an ocean above us. It had been a long fight. The day had raged on, seeming like forever, but only now could we see the real terror of the challenge before us. It was impossible to tell if it was even still nighttime. The sky was entirely blacked out, and the city's flames cast an eerie and terrifying glow upon the billowing clouds. The ash that had rained through the night was tainting our clothes and weapons a filthy blackish color. Much of it smelled of sulfur. No time to worry about smells, though. Not as the mammoth approached. This is what we were here for. We were here to kill this beast. And yet, as we stared him down on his approach, I could feel only fear and rage. A strange brew of emotions, passionate and firm, paralyzing, crippling fear for my life, and a furious rage. It was a monstrous thing that flowed through me like a fire in my very blood and bones. I didn't even feel human at this point. Standing easily as high as a 5-story building, Forge was maybe 200 yards away. A hardened coat of stone and molten metals worn like a heavy armor in lieu of skin. Flames erupted from his back to form massive wings of red-hot metals that seemed to flow around it as though being carefully manipulated. I lowered myself and braced for a charge, when I heard from behind the beast a familiar voice echoing over the din. Of course, though, every breath of relief was always meant the other foot was about to drop. My head was more clouded than the skies at this point, but I noticed Dreg and Lily beginning to twitch wildly. I thought I was the only one to notice what was going on, but it didn't matter. A massive lump had rose up in my throat, and I was frozen in my anxiety. I couldn't bring myself to kill another friend. Fortunately for me, Lori did not have such hesitations. I saw a few small flickers, and heard her scream out, "Duck, you idiot!" just before a blast knocked me to the ground. She was a tricky little leprechaun. I found out later she had used daggers coated in explosives to take Dreg out with a single action. Lily, however, had simply been knocked away by the blast, tragically right into the middle of our tanks. Before they even had a chance to raise their shields, 3 of them had been hit with clearly critical wounds. Lily, you see, unlike Sudical, had specialized in blades. When she moved on Davrin, though, so I'm told, his shield rose up like a bolt of lightning, and he cried out to the skies. His body began to glow a beautiful white light, the ash and soot dissolving around him, and his armor and weapons taking on a glorious shine as the poisoned blades clashed against his towering shield. He struck each blow with precision and a terrible force, blinding flashes erupting with each hit, and only ever taking a small wound on his calf in the entire fight. I'm told after that things were quiet for a few minutes. However, as I awoke, the same could not be said. I opened my eyes to see a glowing Dave. His shield had become almost the size of a building through his unbelievable mastery. The other members of Titan were struggling to find an opening to close in upon, even though through some fantastical magic Dave had completely occupied Forge. I tried to stand but was having trouble finding my feet. I couldn't just watch. Hart was barely able to maintain any degree of healing, and my team was so close to falling. Adam had arrived, but his regiment had been reduced to 20. He had set out with 250, but the Red and Forge had essentially wiped them out. At least 6 of my own elites had been slaughtered already, and many of their divisions had dwindled to near nothing. It was beginning to look like this was going to be a pretty one-sided fight. Only 35 members of Titan had managed to make it to this point, and there was no telling how many people had already died or gotten lost in the city. It was during this moment of realization that I saw Dave tremble, favoring the leg where Lily had cut him. He couldn't do this forever, and we were already losing. That is, they called it a game, episodes 9 and 10. It's cold in here, so I made a couple of flubs. I'm sorry. I hope you still enjoyed it, and I hope you will tune in tomorrow for episodes 11 and 12. Cup of Joe will be coming out tomorrow as well with episode 7, and I hope to see you all again. Remember to subscribe, click that little gray bell, because you have to find out that anything's going on the channel. And whatever time of day it is for you, I hope is amazing. And I'll see you all soon. It's so cold. Sorry. Take care.